I'm sitting here with my friend Ed, a poet I've known for many years, and I thought I'd ask him a few questions about his own poetry and about a poetry group he runs. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Ernesto. Thanks for your interest and for the opportunity to chat. So I think when you asked to speak to me, I realized that I can give you a story about how I came to be interested in poetry, that sort of thing. But I'm ultimately more interested in poems and the process of writing.
Okay.
And yeah, the fact that this happens at all, than I am in the construct or the identity of the writer or the poet. That for me is it's more incidental. It's secondary.
Okay,
Um,
so how did you first get involved in this?
well, I think my interest,
At
as
school
as
or?
with a lot of people, started at school. I think it was Robin Milan compiled these wonderful anthologies for schools.
Okay.
Inscapes, I think, was one.
Yeah.
The Wild Wave
Okay.
was another one. These are all things from way back when. And
Was that pre-contrast?
I think it was a time when I was a kid, was at school. So
Okay.
I think contrast had already started at some point then with Jack Cope.
Was it Jack Cope who started it?
Yes, I think so. This is Michael Cope's father.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So things like that. When I was at university, I gravitated to English courses, English writers that interested me, and there were people along the way who nurtured, who supported, who were supportive. Stephen Watson was one of those people.
Okay.
So all of these things fed into, and then very significant for me was Hugh Hodge,
Okay.
just in terms of because he brought the spoken element to poetry. Previously, it was more the context was more the page and
Yeah.
what you read, which I still think is the ultimate test of anything.
Yeah.
Is does it stand on its own, independently of the person who wrote it? So,
On that note, I've lost the musicians. What is the difference between a lyric and a poem? Is there a difference?
mm, I think I think sometimes it's not that clear. I think there are many musicians who their words do stand on the page. You could regard them as poets.
I mean, Jim Morrison, Patti Smith.
Well, certainly, yeah, there are so many. I
Some people say Bob Dylan is a poet, ultimately.
uh, well, some of his early stuff is sort of stream of consciousness writing or something like that. He had more in common with, say, the Beat Poets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of you and I are both into music. So I would say someone like Towns Van Zandt or Joni Mitchell or Warren Zevon, Lucinda Williams,
Yeah.
Elvis Costello.
Yes.
I mean, there's a list as long as your arm or my arm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who's the first South African poet that you really grabbed your interest? Was there anyone in particular?
Anyone in particular? Gee, that's it's not easy to pinpoint, but I would say people like Douglas Livingston made an impression. But then, yeah, there's a. I mean, I've got a list in front of me here of so many poets who are just brilliant, and to single one of them out would be a bit crazy. But
Well,
I could
just give us a few names.
I could give you a long list of names because it just gives you an idea of. So someone like Habiba Badaroon, Gail Dendy, Jenna Gardini,
Okay.
Fiona Zerbst, Elisa Galgut, she's reading tonight at Off the Wall.
Okay.
Melissa Sussens, who's in the Red Wheelbarrow. Douglas Livingston, I mentioned. Don McLennan, Patrick Cullinan, Douglas Reed Skinner, John T. Driver.
Okay. Yeah, John T. Driver was at the Off the Wall once.
Yes, he had a standing arrangement with Hugh that whenever whenever he was in the country, he'd come to read.
Mm.
Do you want me to carry on with my list? Or
Yes. You can.
Okay.
Did you ever come across what's the name? Gus Ferguson.
Yes, he's on this list.
Okay.
He's just brilliant.
I've been to visit him. What a gentle and kind person.
Wonderful guy.
Also a cartoonist. He had this fanzine he called Slug, and poems and little stories about snails.
Yes, he had a really brilliant way of, I've used that word a lot, but he truly was exceptional. Created this whole universe with snails and poems about snails. Yeah, his humor, and he was just really sharp.
Very sharp.
Really sharp writer, and very gifted with putting things across in a burst of just a condensed.
Okay.
Yeah, always had an angle.
And we spoke a bit earlier about Afrikaans poetry. Do you read Afrikaans poetry? And
My Afrikaans isn't that good. I enjoy the sound of Afrikaans poetry when it's read because of the musicality.
yeah, people like Brayton, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course Ingrid Jonker.
Ingrid Jonker, yes. I know there's a personal connection for you. Certainly, I think her work is really difficult to translate. But yeah.
Well, who's difficult to translate?
Ingrid Jonker. So
yeah,
apparently, I mean, I the subtleties.
Yeah, it's not easy.
So.
And Auntie Kroch, I know she recited the One Night at Touch of Madness.
Yes, she's an incredible performance poet as well. She's really good at...
Some people say she's a bit too political, but I mean, what isn't political these days?
Well, everything is political in some way, I suppose, as many have said. But so yeah, that comes, maybe can come to the second part of what you wanted to ask me about, but that's part of where things are at a little bit for me.
Okay, and when did you start writing poetry yourself?
I think my first probably very bad attempts were in high school, and then there was someone in the army who was writing anti-army poems and became a friend of mine, and I guess there are different people who show you what's possible with the form, and for me it's really just another way of being in the world. It's as valid as anything else, dancing or art, or you know.
And you have your own style, those short little.
Yeah.
Have you always done that way?
No,
done them that way?
That happened after my daughter was born, I think, and so maybe there was less time. I'm not sure, but so yeah, I do the longer things and the shorter things.
Okay.
But can I get back to my list?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
So where were we? Jeremy Cronin, Stephen Simons, so Cohen Sol, Norman Morrissey, Chris Mann, Robert Berold, Rustam Kazane, Stephen Watson, Letukulu Misimang, Sichle Ntuli, Dawn Garish, Kobus Moorman, Musa Kanyile.
Kobus Moorman is also a musician, isn't he? Kobus Moorman.
I don't know, is he a musician?
I think so.
Okay.
I might be thinking of someone else.
Okay.
And how many of these poets are active at present?
Quite a few of them. So Brian Walter, Uwetu Mtoli, Moxolisi Nyezwa, Ria Solka, Jacques Gutsia,
Yeah.
Chris Murray, of course Hugh Hodge is no longer with us.
That was tragic.
Yeah, Stuart Payne, Jean Watermeyer. So these are just Candy Roder. She's also no longer with us. So there's it comes back to what I was saying earlier. There's so much out there.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm not familiar with all those names. Did any of these people read it off the wall?
Yes, they read it off the wall. Some of them.
Some of those names I think I should know, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so a lot of these people have been invited to read at Off the Wall and the Red Wheelbarrow.
Okay.
So yeah, it's exciting. But I'll have more to say about the Red Wheelbarrow.
Okay.
in a moment. Yeah,
So how many of those are Cape Town based, or are they?
quite a few of them. Some of them are no longer in Cape Town. Someone like Habiba Badaroon, I think, is in the States.
Okay.
Um,
So it actually helps having that Zoom meetings because then you can connect anyway.
yes, so that was
Doesn't matter the distance.
that was one of the big advantages with having Zoom, is that you could suddenly include, because there did seem to be this unfortunate, you know, these are the Western Cape poets and these are the Eastern Cape poets in
Yeah.
Johannesburg, and they're just ridiculous because there's talent everywhere, and so Zoom was just a good way of getting to hear different voices that you hadn't heard before.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to give one or two examples of your own poetry?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I
Whatever
okay.
springs to mind, I mean.
Okay, so some of my stuff is in these books, which are Eka. I'm fortunate enough to be part of a group of writers called the Eka Poets, and
Okay.
they bring out a book every year, and so that's
Do they have funding to do that?
it's self-funded. So the sales from the books
Okay.
then go into the next book, and it's
Okay, but the printing costs?
yeah, it's all covered by the sales.
Okay.
So yeah, there are a lot of talented writers in here. So Brian Walters in here, Wetu Mtoli is in here, Silke Heiss, Alvene, Apollos Duplessis, Jacques Kutsia,
Okay.
John van Vanguard, and Cathal Wagan. So Norman Morrissey used to be part of this group
Okay.
as well. So that's what I grabbed before I came here, because that's easy,
Nice.
sort of easy to find. Okay, this is just short things that have been cobbled together into
Okay.
a longer piece. It's called Notes from the Cedarburg.
Right.
Shadows climb these shape-shifting mountains, changing with the changing light.
Very nice.
Sorry. This harsh and unforgiving light, the slow attrition of sheer and splintered stone, of baked and cooling earth, purifies my sight, moves me closer to what it is I mean to say.
Nice.
Above, the valley's dark, ripening clusters of stars, dripping light.
Okay, nice.
Okay, and
what's that one that looks interesting?
this one here, this is this is called Tall Trees. Returning again along the paths he walked as a child, a youth, a man discovers the past he's buried in memory, tattooed for an instant on the surface of a lake. He feels the breeze in the trees as a strange wind, feels the familiar lack that has crawled out from an empty corner of his heart, and knows he has no voice with which to cry that the old dreams have fallen like tall trees in the forest of his past.
Very nice.